Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only Cardinal podcast that, like the Super Bowl halftime show, is sure to disappoint a lot of Midwesterners. My name is Nate Heininger, and I am joined by my co-host, Ben Samorka.
Hi, Nathan Heininger. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing quite well, Benjamin Samorka.
That's fantastic to hear.
Wow, you really mixed up the intro this week. Thank you to In780 from the Bird Scored for that opening bit. If you have an idea for the opening bit, text or leave us a voicemail at 848-48-BIRDS. Hambone, we've got quite a packed show today. I can't believe it. There's been so much Cardinal news this last week. Plus, we got to talk about I just got back yesterday from spending like 5 days straight with you. In fact, while we were working on the outline, we couldn't remember if we talked about it on a previous episode or if we had talked about this stuff in real life. It's awful.
Too much time.
Too much time. We almost had to record yesterday, which would have made it even worse because I had been in your presence that morning as you took me to the airport. So fortunately, we've had a day away from each other. My voice is still, I'm not fully back. It's on a little better, at least than I did the other day.
Yeah,
But
Nate, I don't know why he decided to do this, but he thought it'd be funny if he did his RFK Jr. impression essentially the entire time he was in Colorado. And yes, it was funny at the beginning and we laughed. And then it kind of came back around to being funny again and we laughed. And then even again, it came back around to being funny. But 4 or 5 days in a row of talking like
it's
this.
me. If you read the data behind it,
It really wears on you. I feel bad for RFK Jr.'s family all of a sudden.
I guess I do, but
for that specific aspect of it. Everything else, they're fine.
Yeah. The Super Bowl is done, thank goodness.
The big game. What a gunslinger it was.
Wow. Glad the Chiefs lost, but I'm sad the Eagles won. My goal of the Super Bowl, the power going out in the Super Bowl not being able to complete, it did not come to fruition once again. So there were no real winners from that weekend. But we had an okay time watching it. I thought I don't want to talk about football too much, but I thought this game was a good representation. We actually talked about it while there of why baseball is so much better than football.
Yeah. I think I exclaimed that a handful of times with a couple of ice cold Budweisers in my hand of why NFL is bad. And really it just comes down to 2/3 of that game meant absolutely nothing. And obviously there are blowouts in baseball, but you can always come back, baby. There's always a chance.
Yeah, I think and there's been some crazy comebacks in football too. But the thing that stood out to me that doesn't exist in baseball is that one side, once they get a big lead, their whole point is now to just not allow the other side to play the game anymore, right? They're not even really trying to score themselves. They're just trying to run out the clock. And that there's nothing more boring in sports than someone just trying to run out the clock. The team that you might be rooting for who's down don't even really get a chance. Now, I know you could say, well, play defense better, et cetera, force turnovers, et cetera, et cetera. But still, the entire core of the game is one side is just running. They're wasting as much time as possible. They're making their way slowly to the line. Everything is just to drag it out, and it sucks. Whereas at least with baseball, yes, you might be down by 8, but the pitcher still has to fully execute the pitch, or the batter has the full opportunity to do the exact same thing that they were doing, whether they're winning or losing, right? And so it's still, if someone goes up 8-0 in the first, second inning or whatever, totally it's a blowout, and probably that game is not going to be necessarily the most interesting for the losing team. But at least they have the chance. The Super Bowl was so boring after the first like quarter. It was just done. And it was like, okay, the Eagles, sure they scored 40 or whatever, but almost all that was in the first like 20 minutes of the game, and then it was done. Um,
Yeah.
so anyway, football sucks. Baseball's back, baby. Spring
Oh, thank
training,
God.
pitchers and
Um,
catchers have reported
yeah.
today.
But before we move on, I do. I thought that the halftime show was good. I like Kendrick Lamar, so I enjoyed that part of it. And then I thought that the only commercial that I saw that sparked joy, that energized me, was, I don't even know what it was for, but it was the one that had a seal singing on a rock, and that seal had the face of the
Oh,
singer
seal.
seal,
Yeah.
and I thought that that was really good. I enjoyed that quite a bit.
Yeah, kind of a low hanging fruit joke, but seems like you can't believe that it. 30 years now he's been around and we haven't seen a seal yet. I do think it's funny that I also don't know what that was for. So I guess really good marketing, but also terrible marketing.
Yeah,
I also really enjoyed we're both big Kendrick Lamar fans. I mean, most people are. There's a reason why he was the Super Bowl halftime show. I gotta say, I'm not like super excited about like our biggest cultural moments right now are all centered around calling a dude a pedophile.
yeah,
but it is fun. It is
yeah,
funny. It is definitely funny to have on the biggest thing in the universe on TV and have someone look straight down the barrel of the camera and call another millionaire basically a pedophile.
yeah.
I just
With a
I
smile on his face.
with
I
a smile.
I I was energized by that as well.
I know. I wish that we weren't at this point though, where we're like we have the opportunity to even call someone like that a
Sure.
pedophile.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, culture is dead. We're a part of that. Like there is nothing good about what's happening. But if I can sit back and crush a beer and laugh at Drake, from this weird standpoint that we're all sitting there, I think that's fine.
yeah, sure, sure.
But we're not helping, is all I'm trying to say, really.
No. We did catch Rob Manfred at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Uh,
All the VIPs were there,
yeah,
including him.
sitting next to Paul McCartney.
I mean, I need to know more about this. I need some national writer to drive down this beat. Why were they located together? Does Paul McCartney like baseball? What did they talk about? Do they have anything to talk about?
Yeah.
Does Paul McCartney know who Rob Manfred is?
Well, because I have to assume at that level, all of this seating is to some degree purposeful, right? Like chosen, right? You're not just like, oh, who am I next to?
Do
Oh,
you think it's
sir.
like they put old people together and young people together and stuff like that?
Yeah. Mostly I think it's just like, rich old dudes, like they have a reserved seating for those guys, right?
Sure, sure.
And so I imagine that like Rob Manfred probably at least knew he was going in and was going to be sitting next to Paul McCartney. But hey, maybe the British game is working wonders, the maybe he's an ambassador of the sport now that the Cardinals and whatnot have played in London.
I'm sure Paul McCartney has attended a Major League Baseball game at some point, right?
Well, he's played music in stadiums at
Right.
baseball, so
You would
he's
think he's been around for a while. You think he's had to have gone to a game at some point.
I would imagine so.
I should hope so.
Yeah, I would hope so too. But does he know who Rob Manfred is?
I should
I
hope not.
I should hope not as well. Yeah, quite a different level there. You know, I wonder
Yeah,
what percentage of people who watched the Super Bowl knew who Rob Manfred was.
yeah. And Paul McCartney might be one of the most famous people of all time, right? Like,
He might just be the most famous person,
yeah,
It's
that
like
that's alive today.
just ever.
Period. Yeah.
I mean, really, like who's more famous than Paul McCartney?
So I would submit LeBron James is
You
maybe
think?
more famous.
Um, I don't think so, man. I think that like there's a lot of people like worldwide.
That's what I'm talking about.
I think the Beatles are. Let's go to the
I
phones. Hold
I
on.
I would love for folks to skeet us on Blue Sky about this, but I mean, Paul McCartney and LeBron, we're talking about the tippy top of the tippy top, but
Yeah,
I think LeBron is arguably up there, and I think basketball is a huge game globally.
for sure. But I don't know that he's as world famous as Paul McCartney.
I disagree.
What an unprovable thing. We'll
I
never get
know.
to the bottom of this.
I'm just gonna type in to Google who's the most famous person in the world. Oh,
um,
this includes dead people, but
sure.
according to this Google thing that is AI and totally bullshit, Walt Disney is the number one.
Well, that's a good one. That's a real good one, I guess. Henry Ford, I suppose, is probably up there.
Jesus
Uh,
Christ, how about
yeah,
that?
I was gonna say him, Jesus Christo. Dennis Chevrolet.
I didn't know that was his last name or his first name.
I
It's
don't know.
beautiful how it rolls off the tongue. Or no, it's probably a soccer player like Messi. Maybe Messi is the most famous.
Yeah, I think worldwide soccer is obviously considerably more famous than basketball, but there is the like celebrity side that comes from just being like famous in the United States. But yeah, like Messi or Ronaldinho or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. Certainly not Rob Manfred though.
Yeah, certainly not Rob Manfred. I mean, I wish I didn't know him. That would be great.
Yeah, I wish I wasn't close personal friends with him like I am. But anyway, I'm back. I just spent 5 days out in the sunny, Denver, Colorado,
What
where
was your favorite part of the trip, Nate, if you had to?
well, the trip is really 2 stages for me. There was the
Wow.
arrival and what we did there, and then there was the skiing.
Yeah.
And so, the first night we were there, of course, I arrive and, almost immediately spill an entire chai tea latte over, Ben's really nice white rug.
God damn it. Ugh.
It's all for content though, Hambone. We get to laugh
Was
about it.
I was not annoyed at all. I
No,
was totally
Ben
cool
was
with it. I
definitely
wish you would
not
do it again.
fuming, quietly. But then we went to Casa Bonita,
Oh
which
my
if you're
god, I almost forgot about
yeah,
that.
it feels like a decade ago. But on Thursday night, part of the reason I went out a day early is so I could go to Casa Bonita, which I am almost exclusively familiar with, and I think probably a lot of people are because of the South Park episode from like 15 years ago. But I don't know, Hambo, can you give like a quick elevator pitch on what Casa Bonita is?
Casa Bonita is a 40,000 square foot restaurant in the heart of a Denver suburb that has shooting galleries, magic shows, guitar players, a cliff, divers diving off of that cliff into a pool of water,
Mhm.
sopapillas, average Mexican food. And it has been, since it's reopened, it has been the literally, no hyperbole, the hottest restaurant in Denver. Um,
Yeah, I mean, our reservations were several months in advance, and this
Several
place
months in advance,
we were
yes.
there on a Thursday night, and I mean, hundreds of people there while we were there,
Yes.
a line waiting for hours, it seemed like. I mean, it's reservation only, but it still just seemed like there was a lot of people just milling about, just, I guess, maybe hoping to get a seat, I don't know.
Yeah.
But we had the best seats in the house, of course, expect nothing less. Everybody kept telling us we had the best seats in the
The wait
house.
staff actually said that
They
multiple times. I couldn't believe that, yeah.
multiple different ones, and maybe they're just saying it to everyone, but they were really good seats. We were right up against the cliff, where there was just frequently hunks doing flips into water,
Hunks in Speedos.
hunks in
Mhm.
speedos.
Who needs dinner?
I was just glad to say it's just good to see that there's still jobs out there for hunks. You know what I mean?
That's a good point. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd like every hunk to be taken care of, to have a warm place to sleep at night.
And all they got to do is dance around in their tiny little underwear and do flips and stuff for us. But yeah, I mean, like little shows everywhere. Expensive food, but you're kind of paying for the whole experience. It was a lot of fun. We went into this little arcade. Ben won a baseball duck, which was
I did.
fun.
Can't find it.
Yeah, you can't find it. You lost it.
I can't find it.
Wow. Okay.
But
Well,
it is a baseball duck.
yeah, it's gone now. Um, That was I don't know if that was my favorite part of the whole weekend, but it certainly was the most unique,
Yes.
going, so you called it out, but it is funny. It's in the middle of just, like, a not the nicest seeming part of Denver,
Nope.
not necessarily bad, but, not in alignment with what you're driving up to, this big spire of lights and staff and everything.
Yeah,
Um
if you have any familiarity with the geography of Denver, it is on West Colfax, which is not the most desirable part of town.
Yeah, you're, like, driving through liquor stores and motels, and, like, there was a motel that we drove
Bathhouses.
past, the up on the sign, it said, vacancies and free HBO,
Yeah.
which I imagine has been on that sign since, like, 1998 or something.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that was pretty awesome, and then the next day we drove into the Rocky Mountains to ski, which was good. I said that I would, try to do a blue this year. I did not expect it to be within the first 2 hours that we were there, and I did go from the top to the bottom of it, but, it was in about 10-foot increments with Ben helping me get up, every 10 feet because, I just could not get my feet under me.
Yeah.
So it was not my best skiing, Hambo, and I think,
I
but
think the hardest I laughed all weekend was when you were on that. It was a pretty high angle part of the mountain, and you kept sliding down, and you slowly took my feet out, and I was slowly breaking your leg,
dude, so I was going backwards on the
and I
hill,
couldn't stop
a
laughing. It was so
and
funny.
I was going backwards, which is exactly the way you wanna be going when you don't know how to ski,
Yeah.
and I'm slowly taking Ben out, and I start doing kinda like the splits, and he starts falling onto my leg, my leg that is stretched out, and, like, I could feel it that if he had put his whole pressure down on, I think he would have broken my leg, like, right at like, either snapped, like, my femur in half or pulled it out of my hip socket was the way that it was feeling. Like I'm like, I had no
Uh,
control that I was
yeah.
like, I'm about to break my leg and it's gonna be ham bones. Like it's gonna be ham bone breaking my leg. And I'm only
Mhm.
like a third down this hill right now. So that kind of burned me a little bit. And I, spent the weekend mostly keeping it chill and like falling my ass over everywhere, but it's always a good time. My other big spill was when I hit the boundary rope, and, I was by myself too, which
I
is
did not
even
win. I
even
know. Yeah, did not see this
even
part.
even better. But yeah, like, I kinda, like, flung through a rope and lost had to dig my skis out of the deep snow and whatnot, and it was good, it was fun, it was cool, we loved it, but I made it, no real injury. I won't say I progressed at all in skiing, which was not great, but I still always have a good time. It's fun to go fast. I fortunately have gotten very good at falling, so I've avoided I probably fell more than the 13 other people that we skied with combined.
That
Um,
might be
a-
true.
and I was feeling fine. And we had other people who had fallen and were like really, kind of shooken up and not wanting to get back out there. I'm like, whatever. I've fallen 14 times in the last hour and I'm still out here.
Hell yeah. I
But anyway,
appreciate that about you.
uh-huh, uh-huh. But it was good. We had a stanky hot tub, so that's another fun thing that we had. And we ate pizza twice in a row because we fucked up the groceries. And altogether, it was a good
No,
weekend.
we did leave about $150 of groceries in one of my cars in Denver, and we are about 50 miles away from it. So yeah, that was the big L of the weekend, I think.
Yeah, yeah, Big Al.
Oh,
But
a big W for the weekend though is we tried Post Malone Oreos. Delicious.
yeah, you can really taste the bits of Post Malone in each one of
Oh
them.
my god, yeah, it's
Hmm.
little beard hairs and
Yeah,
tattoos. It's great.
yeah. I mean, they look disgusting, but when you just close your eyes and cover your nose and take a bite, they're pretty good.
Pretty good.
Pretty
Yeah.
good. All right, Pack Show Hambone. Pitchers and catchers have
Wow.
reported.
They did
Gates
it.
are being opened. Lockers are being relocated. I saw they've set in the Cardinal clubhouse. Sonny Gray has been set up next to Quinn Matthews. Isn't that
Wow.
fun?
Wow. Tutelage,
Yes,
leadership,
quite.
this and that, so on and so
Indubitably.
forth. Wow.
Yeah. But look at that. We're getting actual in baseball stadium, in clubhouse things. So we are so close to exiting the least productive offseason. We can now say the Cardinals are we're now technically out of the offseason. The full
Thank
squad
God.
doesn't report until the 17th, but baseball is moving forward and is happening. And we have exited now the offseason where the Cardinals are the only team in MLB to not spend a single dollar on free agency.
I think
Is-
that I mean, I know we've been complaining about it for months at this, but I don't care how you slice it. I don't care what happens after this episode drops. I don't care if Bregman is traded or is signed and then Arenado is traded next time. By the time we talk next, Mozeliak has done a god awful job. It's unbelievable how little he has done,
yeah.
especially when we know that the division of labor has him only focused on the major league product right now. He has done, he has never had less to do, and he has never done less.
Well, I mean, you say he's never had less to do because of the direction and the choice that they've decided to go. He doesn't have anything to do.
Right.
Plus the decision of a few Cardinals who have opted to stay with the team rather than be traded.
Sure.
But still, yeah, the decision to basically stand pat with your team, kind of go for it in 2025 while making no meaningful effort to improve the team. It's yeah, I truly wonder what his days have been. Is it just sitting there staring at the phone, waiting for someone to call back about Arenado? It doesn't seem like he could be really doing much when, as you said, we know there's a lot of guys right now in the front office that are out there preparing for the new regime and whatnot. But there was still some Cardinal stuff that happened over the last week that we wanted to go through, including a player acquisition. So
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe this is a deal 3 months in the making, and he finally got it across the finish line. Well, I've already teased it. Let's just start with that. The Cardinals acquired Michael Helman from the
Yeah.
Twins for
Wow.
cash. The 40 man is
Yep.
complete. Man, how you feeling? Was that the finish? Was that the bow? Was that the bow we needed to cherry on top of this team for 2025?
Yeah, yeah, this is definitely the glue that will keep the Cardinals together for 162 this year. I
Yeah.
think this is how you complete a team
Uh-huh.
that is ready to make a postseason push and be really entertaining, while also developing the youth,
Uh-huh.
and seeing exactly how you can market your older players while also letting those younger pitchers develop. It's
It's
all
it's perfect.
coming up, Mo and
So
Co.
Mo and Co. So Michael Hellman can play shortstop and center field, and he's a right-handed hitter.
Yeah,
Um, he's the type of player you acquire for cash considerations, which always makes me laugh. The phrase cash considerations. Like, yeah, we'll consider some money.
it seems like they just threw this guy away and the
Yeah.
Cardinals picked him up.
Yeah, which he does technically fill the need that the Cardinals have stated. They wanted a right-handed hitter. We have some more depth at shortstop and at center field.
Yeah,
Um, and so there's some logic behind this move. But I was interested in your take on this because everyone we keep saying we needed a right-handed hitter, and I get that, and some depth in shortstop and center field and things like that. And he technically does that. But this guy, what is he, 29 years old?
it's
Um,
28 years and 8 months and 20 days.
okay. And there's maybe a little bit of pop in there, maybe some plate approach, but there's a reason why the Twins are giving him for nothing. And I just don't understand. Help me understand why this is better than just continuing to throw these at bats to guys in the farm system, regardless of their handedness. Like when you're, to me, when you're really looking for like a right-handed hitter versus a left-handed hitter, et cetera, you're doing that to optimize in the game, in the moment, to win ball games. But if our
Yeah.
stated goal is to let let the kids play outside of all the, Grizzly veterans the team already have, why does handedness matter as much as opposed to just giving those at bats to anybody?
Well, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I don't think that it does. And I think that if you want to find right-handed at bats for anyone, they should be going to Luke and Baker, which I've said countless times this
Yeah.
offseason. So I think it really just comes down to having that positional flexibility. What what frustrates me with this move, and this is no slight on Michael Helman, who I think it's worth noting that he has put up above average WRC pluses throughout most of his minor league career. Last year, and actually since 2022, he's shown a nice combination of speed and pop.
Yeah.
And he's got that defensive versatility. So this guy's not just a total zero. And this, what I'm about to say, really has nothing to do with him. Maybe it works out. But if you want to make an addition to the big league club or to possibly impact the big league club or to be on the 40-man roster, whatever it is, why not get somebody who you believe you can flip at the half or somebody who you think can add value to your younger players? And by that, I mean come in and teach them. JD Martinez is a name that is unsigned right now. That would make sense to me because JD Martinez is known as being like a technician. He's known for
Yeah.
running hitting meetings. He's a right-handed hitter, and having him kind of place his hand on the training of all these young guys makes a lot of sense. You could bring him in on a 1-year deal. Like if he's not god awful, trade him at the deadline, and your team will be better for it in multi-factor. Brendan Rodgers is another guy that I've talked about. Um, you could have made a similar move in getting a right-handed hitter, maybe a little less position versatility, but I don't think that needs to be the priority. It's like the Cardinals have enough; they have too many guys for how many
Right.
positions are there. So I absolutely understand wanting to bring somebody in to balance out the team, and if it makes your team feel in the clubhouse and in between the lines that they are a little more fit to compete, I think that's good. I think doing things to make your players happy is a good move. I just don't think grabbing this guy. Um, really makes a lot of sense. I don't view this guy as somebody who's going to crack the roster. It's kind of we're talking about it. He's on the 40 man, so it's worth talking about. But it's another nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I kind of hope we're wrong here about this him and maybe maybe like you said he has shown some like ability in the minor leagues and has never really had a shot at the major league level, and maybe the Cardinals see something and this is going to end up being a steal and he's a value at his price and whatnot.
Well,
And maybe they are seeing it as like grabbing somebody for the
who,
future, but it's
whose front office? Whose front office do you trust more, the Twins or the Cardinals?
Well, it's hard to argue against the Twins right now. I mean, they continue to be pretty successful. I guess I would wonder where this decision came from. Is this Mozeliak
Well,
or is this like a Heim Bloom thing?
right. And what I'm saying, or why I'm kind of framing it that way, is because the Twins made the decision that they would rather bring in Harrison Bader to be their backup center fielder for when Byron Buxton, goes down for hopefully not
Uh-huh.
too long, but he always goes down.
Yeah.
They made the choice. And they know Hellman better than the Cardinals. And that's the move they did. And I love Harrison Bader. I want nothing but the best for Harrison Bader, and I want him to
Yep.
hit and win and everything. But he's a subpar hitter that's a really great defensive outfielder, and that absolutely has a place in baseball. But they
Right.
made that it's hard to um, get excited because of that valuation.
Yeah, well, anytime you're acquiring someone for cash considerations, the other team is basically just saying, just take this guy, right?
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, he's got a spot on the 40 man. I guess if he goes horribly, he could be booted and Fermin or someone like that is taking his spot. But
Why
I
give these at bats to Fermin?
what's that?
Why not give these at bats to
Yeah,
Fermin?
or anybody. Is
Yeah.
any of our younger guys that we're interested in.
Like if Hellman takes one at bat out of the hands of Thomas Sajasi, this has been a catastrophic signing.
Well, that's exactly what he's
Catastrophic.
gonna do, right?
Yeah.
Unless they're the fear is something happens to win, but I'd still just throw whatever, throw JC in there or you know, Donovan or anybody, throw someone else in at short.
Let let JJ take a whack at it. This is a development year. Like let him
Yeah.
develop.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Um Well, so we'll see how Hellman plays out. Again, we're being pretty pessimistic about this whole thing, but maybe he can. We're certainly rooting for the guy. He's a Cardinal now, so hopefully he can prove us all wrong. But for this is
I
like
would like to
the
say again, I am not this is not Hellman's fault.
right,
This is John
right.
Mozeliak's fault. There I have no issue with Hellman. I hope exactly what you said. I hope he's on fire and he has a great spring and everything.
Yeah, well, and if the Cardinals were in a different position, like this might be it. This is he makes kind of sense as a 40 man as the 40th man on your roster. If you're in like he makes a lot of sense for the Twins.
Yeah.
You're like planning to compete and you want to make sure that your depth is not going to be terrible, right?
Yeah.
He makes a lot of sense in that regard, but doesn't really make sense for the Cardinals' stated goals right now. But we actually don't really know what the Cardinals' stated goals are anyway. As Sonny Gray put it. What is this? A retool or a rebuild or what are we calling it now?
Yeah.
Now the Cardinals made a different move though that I actually like. So let's talk about that one. The Cardinals have signed Nick Anderson to a minor league deal, something like $1.1 million. Uh, I have been a pretty big believer, or I've been a fan of Nick Anderson's stuff for several years now. It's hard not to argue that he has quite elite stuff, but he just cannot stay healthy. He's pitched something no more than 40 innings in a year since 2019. But he has very very high upside. The chance for in the event that he's healthy, that any team would be happy to have Nick Anderson, and this is where we've pretty much aligned, I think, with the Cardinals' methodology is the way they build their bullpen, I think, has been pretty strong. And I thought this was a pretty good addition. He may never make it back to the majors. He may not crack the bullpen. He may not be healthy. But these are the kinds of risks I think you should take and see what pops. And if he can really bounce back, be healthy, you've got a good deadline candidate or someone that you might extend early on and you have a new core piece of your bullpen.
Yeah. Yeah. He's going to be 34 this year. He has not been healthy. He pitched 35 innings the last 2 years, one for Atlanta, one for the Royals. But like you said, he's got elite stuff when he's healthy. His fastball's taken a step back since his ridiculous year in 2019.
Yeah.
But he has good breaking stuff. And yeah, I think it really just comes down to the methodology side of it. It's go get a guy that has shown performance or whose metrics you enjoy and add him to the pile of relievers. And, when Nick Robertson goes down, call up Nick Anderson. When this guy isn't going great, bring up the other guy and
Yeah.
try to figure it out. And maybe you find a JoJo Romero, or maybe we never talk about Nick Anderson again for the rest of the year. This is how the Cardinals should continue to build bullpens. I think it worked well last year, and we've seen some guys flame out. But yeah, with Ryan Fernandez and some of the other, I already said JoJo, some of the guys that you've seen pop, Andrew Kittredge, I think no one can argue
Yeah.
with how successful he was last year. Um, it's great. Keep doing this. Do this forever.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So we like that one. Hellman one, we'll see. I guess it's nice to have players to talk about a little bit in our last off season episode.
They really are the 38th and the 39th and the 40th guys on the 40 man. But we'll take anything at this point.
Yeah. All right, so we've talked a lot about the arbitration process, but we have a few updates on that too. Do you wanna run through that?
Yeah, Donovan and Lars Newbar have their arbitrations have been settled at this point. Donovan will earn 2.85. He submitted 3.3. The team won that conversation. Newbar will earn 2.95. He did win his arbitration when the team filed at 2.45. So, I mean, we're talking about, especially to a team like the Cardinals, pennies of savings, but it's nice to see that these are over with and that obviously these guys have been retained and there's nothing really to talk about other than that. I will say, we something more interesting than arbitration hearing conversation is that, these are the two guys that we talked about should be extended.
Mhm.
And I'm not trying to pile on. I'm not trying to be hyper negative on this episode, but this is kind of where the criticism comes even more. If you can't go and augment your team, why not try to retain the players that you believe in? And I even understand if you are being too risk adverse and don't want to go for Newt. I think Brendan Donovan is an obvious candidate. And while these are fine and the arbitration, it is what it is. Um, I do think it's fair to criticize the front office for not getting one of these guys done. Both would be even better. Um, but yeah, that's what's
Yeah.
happening.
That one I'm a little more like we've talked a lot about extensions this offseason, and obviously I agree with you. I think Donovan is a pretty clear candidate, and Newt makes a lot of sense. So I would understand if they didn't want to go that route. The thing to remember though too here is that we don't really know these conversations, right? We did get rumors. I
Well,
think it was there was reporting that Donovan and the Cardinals were in talks for an extension, but we don't know what the Cardinals are offering. We don't know Donovan and Newbar want too.
I get that, and I'm empathetic to that, and the frustration comes because, like I said, nothing else has been done.
Yeah,
Like, give me something. There has to be, whether it's future facing or whatever, the
yeah. They'll
complete lack of activity.
I suspect that part of it too is Mozeliak stated that he wanted to leave a clean slate for the new regime. And even though I don't think Heim Bloom would be particularly upset with an extended Mason Wynn or extended Brendan Donovan or whatever, there may be some discussion of let's just wait and let Heim as the principal negotiator or whatever take that over
Uh,
next year.
So last time Heim Bloom got the top job for a team, his owner essentially forced him to trade Mookie Betts.
Yeah.
Is something like that going to happen next year?
Well, I don't know. The guy that you would like, the Cardinals are trying to force a trade with Arenado right now. It's not going anywhere. Is there an equivalent of that for the I don't think we have that other than no, because that was the last year of his contract too. They forced him to trade it. I think the
Yeah,
idea
it
that
was
it would
just
be
walk here.
yeah,
Yeah,
it'd be peak value of trade,
yeah.
um, didn't
I don't
really
know. I'm
work.
what I mean. One of the worst trades in baseball history. I think that you can say that pretty easily at this point.
Verdugo's still out there playing, not as a Red Sox, but he's out
He's
there
not
still playing.
signed. He doesn't have a home right now.
Oh, that's right. He was with the Yankees last year?
Yeah, and he put up like a sub 90 WRC plus. He was
Mhm.
bad.
Mhm. 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 Well, it's worked out well for the Dodgers, I
It
suppose.
sure did. I saw Paul Goldschmidt taking outfield reps with Aaron Judge earlier this morning.
That's fun. I had
Bummed
a
me out.
conver I yeah, well, sure. I had a conversation in a bathroom at the ski resort with a guy because I was wearing my "I enjoy watching baseball" T-shirt, and, he said, "I enjoy watching baseball as well." These shirts, by the way, talkingaboutbirds.com.
Wow.
And he's a Yankees fan, and we were talking about Goldschmidt. I was like, "I think you're gonna have a lot of fun with Goldschmidt on your team this year. He certainly gotta do better than he did last year with the Cardinals." So I think we're both probably anticipating a pretty big bounce back year from Goldie over there.
Yeah. Have you considered picking a team to hitch your wagon to with the Cardinals pretty clearly taking a step back? Is there any other team in the big leagues that you're like kind of rooting for or maybe we'll be watching a little more closely because of this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I like you, I watch just a ton of baseball, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't just watch the Cardinal games. I watch almost every night. I'm either watching or listening or passively paying attention to some sort of game. And so I don't typically pick another team that is like this is my specific rooting interest. But there are certainly teams that I've always been a fan of outside of the Cardinals. So first that come to mind are our other bird teams. I do like the Orioles, and they're a really good team. And there's a lot of those players that I really like watching. Huge fan of Gunnar Henderson. I'm a big time believer in the haunted doll himself, Jackson Holiday. So I'm interested to see what he is able to do this year.
Oh, I've heard he's put on some weight this offseason.
I saw, I read that too, and he's going to try to steal bases. And did you see Ethan Carter or Ethan Carter? What is Ethan Holiday
Either yeah, what?
is um is set to enter in the draft this year and is considered for the number one pick. Now
Yeah.
the Cardinals have the fifth pick, so maybe something happens and he drops a little bit, and the Cardinals can snag Ethan Holiday. How
That would
fun
be
would that
good.
be?
That would be
But
good.
I know I'm sure this is easily researched, but that's not what we do around here. But I was thinking if Ethan Holiday gets drafted first overall and Jackson Holiday was drafted first overall, is that like the most successful set of sons in baseball history? And there's a third Holiday
Oh,
also who's coming
set
down
of
the line.
sons.
Yeah. Like
Oh, I don't
like
know.
a former, because the league is rife with former players'
Yeah,
kids,
right.
right? But I can't think of another situation where two people from the same family, let alone um, you know, the offspring of a former all-star were first overall draft picks. Like
No,
almost
I
back to back.
this isn't the same thing, but they do have more major league success than the Holiday Boys. The Rogers brothers, both being they're twins,
Oh, Tyler and Taylor. Yeah.
both being major league pitchers. And my favorite part is up until this year, they were in the same bullpen for a couple of
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
Um, but there's got to be more. The Boons, how many? There's so many Boons in the history of baseball. There has to be. I
There
don't know their draft class or anything like that, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it's the
easily
first overall.
researchable, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the first overall pick thing because we'll see what
right.
Jackson Holiday does and Ethan Holiday. Like, there's certainly successful brothers and sons and the Griffeys and all that, right? But
Yeah,
having two sons of a former All Star becoming the first overall draft picks, like that's
yeah.
pretty
Oh,
remarkable.
also, I'm sure somebody is screaming at us right now. The Molinas should be considered in this with their World Serieses and everything. Obviously, not by the category you're speaking
Right.
of,
Well,
but when we're
yeah,
talking about sibling success, that's
that I mean
really
that
high.
opens up wider because then even nowadays the Contreras brothers as well. Like, there's a lot of
Yeah,
examples of successful brothers.
I
Um,
just felt somebody screaming at us, so I had to say
yeah,
that out loud.
you gotta talk about, of course, the Molinas. But anyway, so what were we even? Oh, you asked me who I follow. The Orioles. I like the Blue Jays as well.
Yeah,
So I really do just follow the other bird teams. I don't typically pick another NL team because
no,
I just find that
makes
harder
sense.
to root for. So I find myself picking a bunch of the AL teams. Um, and then I always have a soft spot for in my heart for the teams that are like in similar markets as us, like the Twins and the Tigers and stuff like that. How about yourself? Is there like are you picking a team? Do you have one that
I
you're
So yeah, I've been thinking about that, and it's obviously I have the Rockies, but they're in a worse spot than the Cardinals are, so it kind of takes the fun out of it. I'm pulling for the A's this year,
Yeah? Wow. So
and I
you just like
know,
super support Jeff Fisher and everything that he's done, and um you're ready to log in and support the athletics.
yeah, I'm a little conflicted about that, but I am thinking that my one little dot of viewership from Denver, Colorado, probably doesn't tip the algo all that much,
Sure.
and I like those. I like a lot of guys on their
Yeah.
team. I like what
Well,
their front office is doing right now.
yeah. And
Also, I'm on the West Coast, and it makes it easier to watch those games.
that's true. Um Yeah, I wrestle with this a little bit too, where it's like almost in anything, right? It's rarely the workers that are the problem, right? So you can get like I get super mad at the owner level, CEO level, etc. But the people that are on, especially in sports, like they can't. Lawrence Butler can't control
Right.
that he's an athletic, right?
Right.
They've got a lot. We've talked about them a bunch. They got a lot of players I like as well, but it is a little hard to support the organization. But the players, I agree, and the athletics are historically a really awesome team, and it would be kind of fun, maybe there'll be like a do it for Ricky sort of thing too.
Well, I think that's really exciting. I also think like the AL West is kind of
Yeah,
stagnant. The Mariners aren't doing anything to make it interesting. The Angels are kind of a joke. The Astros are starting to show, some chinks in their armor. So like, I think
yeah.
maybe
Well,
something can happen here.
that's why I've put $50,000 down on the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim to win the AL West.
Okay, that's smart. Can I
I'm
have some of that?
no, dog. I'm broke now.
Okay,
I
that
spent
makes sense.
all my money on a February bet on on the Angels. Um,
Well, we'll talk about it later, but they made the move this week that people are really excited about.
they're improving their team.
They are.
The Angels have had a better offseason than the St. Louis Cardinals.
If the Angels free agent signings could somehow turn the clock back to 2019, they would be lit. It would be a really good team.
It could be. It could be. All right. There's still some we got a back show, Hambone. We can't talk about other teams right now. We
Sorry.
got more Cardinal news to talk about. Um, Rob Kaminsky's back.
Yeah. This is his third time being a Cardinal. He has bounced all over. If I remember correctly, he was with the Mariners last year and then ended his season in independent ball. Obviously, a cool guy. This to me feels like the signing that happens before you become a special assistant slash coach
Oh
in the
yeah,
organization. I remember when Kaminsky was drafted, that curveball was legit. For
yeah.
whatever reason, it never really came together for him, even though he had a small cup of coffee that was successful with a big league club. I don't even know how many years ago at this point. Um,
2015,
wow, that is
and then I
insane.
forget what he was traded that year to the Guardians, or maybe it was in the off season. I don't I don't remember. But yeah, so he was with the Cardinals. He pitched in 2015 at the major league level, and then he's just bounced around, getting little tastes back at the major league level. But now he's back with the Cardinals. And yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I figured that this is just like everyone he was drafted, somebody in the organization is a believer that at some point it's gonna
Yeah.
work really well. And they just keep bringing him back, hoping it will work.
Yeah. Good luck to you, Rob.
Sure.
He's only 30.
Yeah. Um, do we want to talk about there? There's yet another nothing burger Arenado news.
I don't
But
think we have to. Mo says they're still trying to do it. And he was bitching and moaning that he only has 5 teams to trade with.
yeah, I mean, I do believe that he's in a tough spot. It just seems to me that maybe he should have had like other options and other things he could do other than just hope to trade this one guy and then do a bunch of stuff after that.
Yep.
But all right. Um, we're starting to get a little bit of news from down in Jupiter as well. Stubby Clapp working with Willson Contreras on first base. How you feeling about that?
Yeah, I mean, this is like the kind of spring training thing that's supposed to be happening at this point, right?
Yeah.
I think Wilson Contreras will take to it. He's athletic. He's used to receiving balls. He is flexible. I don't know. He's going to be fine at first
Yeah.
base, but kind of fun to see, and read these types of things that, Stubby Clapp is the guy that's going to get Wilson all trained up. And, I don't think it can't go worse than like Matt Carpenter or some of these other kind of sort of first basemen that we've had in the past. I do think it's important for us all to get ready to not have Paul Goldschmidt over there. I think that
Yeah.
while first base defense is kind of almost the butt of a joke a lot of times, like the ability to receive like Paul Goldschmidt to what we're about to witness is going to be a dramatic drop off. And I think Willson will transition easily or well. Um, but it's going to be different.
Yeah, going from a Gold Glove first baseman who's been doing it his entire life to Willson, who I agree is going to do well. It is still just going to be a reduction, very likely.
Right.
Um, so, but hopefully we get more of a offensive production from Willson than we got from than Goldie last year.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it a couple of times, but I just find it really fun to speculate wildly on this. Like,
Yeah.
there has to be some level of increase to offense, or at least one would expect. Like, he's not going to get a bat to the forearm. He's not going to get fastballs bouncing off the dirt and cracking him in the testicles or his knee or his face or whatever.
Though he does have to deal with Mason Wynn throwing, 105 miles per hour at him. So
But he's
hopefully,
he's he's been catching Helsley.
uh,
He'll be fine. That'll be no big deal,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I'm just, he still has to deal with some missiles coming his way. Um,
Yeah. But
so
yeah, I
yeah,
think that's like a very interesting thing to follow this spring is how that transition goes. And does he look like a baby T-Rex, or does he look like a first baseman, catching balls and digging him out of the dirt and everything?
it's good handwork you did there.
Thank you.
As Ben said, a baby T Rex, he put his little hands up.
Thanks, dog.
Is that it? Is that all the Cardinal news we have for this week?
Well, yeah, here we could talk about some important dates.
Sure.
This is
Okay.
fun. You already
Sure.
said it, but the pitchers and catchers reported today, a day after this episode came out. They are showing up this Wednesday, the February 12th. So that's really exciting. Full squad is expected to show up February 17th. So that is next week. That means everybody, and we assume a lot of people will be there before that date, but very exciting in its own right. And what is even more exciting, Nathan, is that
Yes.
the Cardinals and the Marlins face off February 22nd. We are days away.
Mhm.
It is within the month. We are so close to being able to watch actual baseball. And then something I wanted to shout out. We've done this, I think, every year we've done the pod. But very soon after that week, we'll start doing our breakdown of the rest of the teams in the National League Central, kind of do our preview of or a review, I guess, of what the teams have done in the offseason,
Mhm.
how we think they've improved, and just kind of going through to the division with a bit more of a fine tooth comb than we have previously, which at least I look forward to. Hopefully people like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a good level set going into the season to, kinda get a feel for what to expect and what to look for when we, play a ton of games against these teams.
Hell yeah, brother.
It's a little bit more exciting when we think we might win the division, but again, you never know, 90th percentile outcomes for
Well,
everybody.
I was gonna say what will be, I think, very evident as we go through these teams and we're talking through the NL Central is that yes, some teams have gotten better. And if I had to put money on it right now, I'd probably say the Reds are a better team than the Cardinals. But there are scenarios left and right where it does not go well
Yeah.
for the Reds, where it does not go well for the Cubs, where the Brewers, I mean, I think if you ask the Brewers front office people today, they would say, "Wow, we really overperformed our expectations last year."
Yeah.
And the odds of that happening again are just as good as them not happening again. It's there's I'm not trying to build up people to be let down or to find fake optimism, but baseball is baseball, and anything could happen.
Every year, there's a team or 2 that completely defy expectations, in many different directions. Some teams will overperform way more than you expect, and some good teams will have shit seasons, that we don't expect. So that's what they say, Hambone. That's why they play the games.
God, that was dope. Um, One
They
thing I did
suck.
want to break before we go to the break is, and I'm looking at the Cardinals roster right now. Are you surprised that Kyle Gibson and Lance Lynn remain unsigned?
Lance Lynn, no offense to Lance Lynn. We love Lance Lynn, but I'm not that surprised that he has not found a team yet. I am more surprised that Kyle Gibson has not. Um, I maybe they've had offers and they just didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
But I really thought, well, I kind of did think both of them would land somewhere. But I really thought Kyle Gibson would land somewhere pretty quickly.
Like the Rockies could use both of them. There are so many teams that could use one of those guys. I'm very surprised. It's not only that they were like scooped up so early last year because presumably they were desirable to some degree, or
We
Mo
also
just,
remember they wanted to play for the Cardinals, and that goes a
of
long
course.
way.
Oh, that was the biggest offseason story last year. I'll
Yeah,
never forget that.
of
They
course.
wanted to come here, so
Yeah.
I just said yes.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, maybe they're retiring by just not wanting to sign somewhere else, but I just thought that was interesting. Huge part. I mean, those are almost 400 innings,
Yeah.
300 ish something innings for the Cardinals last year, and they're gone.
Yeah. I guess I could see Kyle Gibson being someone that a team brings in. Like you and I had talked about the Cardinals signing him just to trade him once some team breaks a pitcher breaks in spring training. Right? It's not
Yeah,
uncommon for these veteran pitchers to their off season has been the same thing for 12 years now. They don't necessarily need to be with any specific team to get ready for it. So
right.
I wouldn't be surprised to see a Kyle Gibson March signing or something like that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Good luck, Kyle.
Yep. And Lance, come and give me a ride in your big pink Bronco.
Bronco.
Bronco. I'm around. What's up? What's up, Lance?
Are you hitting on Lance
We
Lynn?
could
What's
go and get
happening?
barbecue. I don't know. Maybe.
Okay. Sounds good. I would eat with him.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna cover some of the rest of the league news and play a little game. But before we do, we want to remind everybody that this show is listener supported by listeners just like you. If you want to support the show and the time and effort that we put into bringing it to you every week for 156 episodes straight, consider joining the patreon.com/talking about birds. Patrons of every level get access to our private Discord server. It's the Bird Scored, baby. And we are
Sweet,
firing
sweet.
up the fantasy baseball league. We are moving quickly with it. So if you want to be a part of that, now is the time to join. And you can test yourself against the rest of the Bird Scored. It's an elite crew. Okay.
Wow.
So good luck.
And me.
Um, and Ben. And will C70 only draft Cardinals this year? Didn't work last year. Seems like a worse idea this year, but I guess we'll find out. And we're also still finishing up, or we're figuring out when we're going to do our movie night. Obviously, we've had some trips, and it's kind of messed up our schedules, but we're still figuring that out. And we're just having fun in there talking about baseball. It's been a great place this off season to chat with other Cardinal fans. Patreon.com/talking about birds. You can also support us by leaving us a review on your favorite podcast platform, or just go and tell your friends. Now's a great time to get into the pod as we fire up for the 2025 season. Hambone, where else can people find us online?
Yes, you can skeet us on Blue Sky. We have an Instagram. You can follow us over there at Talking About Birds. We got a TikTok. Come TikTok with us. This show is available to listen to on Spotify and now watch on YouTube. We are doing terrible versions of this video podcast and uploading it to YouTube. So if you prefer to watch that and look at us, I guess go for it. Or
Mm-hmm.
don't. That's also cool. You can find all of that podcast information, the shirts Nate referenced before, at talkingaboutbirds.com. Come check out talkingaboutbirds.com. And of course, you can always email us questions, thoughts, concerns, ask Nate some skiing tips to talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. If you would like to call us and leave a voicemail or send us a text message, you can send those messages to 848 48 birds. That's 848 482 4737.
Wow. All right.
Wow.
So the Cardinals finished up their roster this week, and a few other teams have made a few moves and some other things going on. Hambone, what do you got for us as we round
Yeah,
up
I
the
was talking
offseason?
about this already. The Angels continue to, I mean, stack team. Um,
Mhm.
Everything they do is smart. Did you see that it was announced before we hopped on mic today that Anthony Rendon is going to miss like a majority of the season with hip surgery?
Yes, man. You almost feel for the Angels on that one. Like we give them a lot of shit for their contracts that they give out. They chase celebrity. But Rendon was one of the best players in baseball when they signed him.
Yep.
And it has just I mean, has there been a worse contract than Anthony
It's
Rendon's?
in competition for the worst free agent signing of all time,
Yeah. And
without a doubt.
I don't know, but I don't think it didn't get a lot of shit at the time. It was a high dollar, but like
Yeah.
he was really good, right?
Yeah. I mean, he was a
And
good defender. He was a doubles machine with power. He hit over 300. Yeah, he was awesome.
yeah, like it's just the Angels are cursed. Because I mean, he just was immediately bad for them. His best season for them was his first, where he put up 2.5 F4, and he has not surpassed one since then.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, his attitude, just the way that he treats the fans and treats the media and it really he doesn't do himself any. It's very, very uncharming, very hard to watch, hard to root for. And it's not the
Yeah,
Angels' fault, and it's
not
not
cute.
really Rendon's fault. I mean, health
Well,
is
yeah, totally not the health stuff, although,
yeah.
there might be some underlying factors there of his
I don't think I don't think he's getting surgeries he doesn't need though, right? Like he might
yeah,
not be giving it his all to get back onto the field, but I don't think you get a hip surgery
no.
unless it's all smoke and mirrors somehow. I mean, maybe it's all a lie. I don't know.
I thought it was super cool when he tried to fight that fan.
That was good. Again, he lacks charm. He seems to be fairly stupid anytime you hear him talk. Like I just don't like the guy.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but he doesn't care. And I don't care. And
yeah,
I guess good for you. He made the bag. Um, but he is the reason why teams are afraid of certain players, and
yeah.
maybe the Angels should have done more research on his quote unquote makeup or whatever you want to call it.
He put up 6.8 WAR the season
Yeah,
before they signed him.
yeah, and won a championship, right? Wasn't
Yeah,
that the year they won?
yeah,
Yeah,
they'd won. It's 2019. He was one of the best players on the championship winning team. Signs a mega deal with the Angels and is just trash going
yeah.
forward.
I do wonder how guys like Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani feel about if you could give them truth serum, what would they say about Anthony Rendon?
Yeah. Well, yeah, who knows, man? Are they like empathetic to a fellow great player who just can't stay on the field, or is he like a giant dick and
Yeah,
they're just like, dude, that guy is one of the reasons why our team has been shit for the last 5 years.
arguably the biggest reason. He's
Yeah,
been a $245 million black hole.
yeah.
And
Uh,
the reason why Mike Trout doesn't have another superstar on the team.
Now, Kenley Jansen, in this moment, I think is a good signing for them. They are making an effort to compete. Their bullpen is okay. I actually really like Ben Joyce, who was their closer. Young guy, throws super hard. But adding a veteran at the end, 10 million bucks, I think, pretty good deal. If
Yeah,
they're smart, he's either a good closer on a team that's trying to win, or they've done what we've been lobbying the Cardinals to do, which is sign these guys to try to trade them at the midseason. There's few things more valuable than a closer at midseason. So like this could work out really well for the Angels. He was good last year. He's good. He's
yeah,
probably Hall of Fame, right?
yeah, yeah. I think him and Kimbrel
Yeah.
are probably the two guys that are definitely going from this generation, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Hater also probably, but
He's on
he's
that path.
five
He's got a
years
lot more
younger.
to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kenley
Um,
Jansen's gonna be 38 years old this year.
yeah. But last year one of his best seasons of the last several. 1.4 F4, which is really good for a reliever. 54 innings, 10.21 K per nine. Like he still got it. You know, the XFIP was a little high, but like I thought this. I was surprised that a more competitive team with like the Orioles or something didn't go out and get him. But I do understand it's a risky play getting a 38-year-old reliever, and because it's the Angels, I'm afraid they've doomed him to obscurity.
Probably.
Yeah,
Um, Sticking in the LA area, the Dodgers have re-signed Clayton Kershaw. The terms of the deal have not been announced yet. We all saw this coming.
yeah,
I don't think Clayton Kershaw will ever play for another team. Maybe this will be his last year. Who knows? Um, they also signed Kike Hernandez. Their 40 man is already maxed out, so I don't know who else is going.
yeah.
Um, but somehow they have more roster space. I believe. Let me just double check this. I think Clayton it will be immediately moved to the IL.
Right.
So maybe that's how they're doing this.
I'm assuming he's
Um,
going on the 60-day, so they don't have to do a roster spot for him because it was always
yeah,
kind of understood that he probably wasn't going to pitch till midseason anyway, and so
right.
I just assume by time he's ready, shit will have
Yep.
changed and they'll have a spot for him.
So the roster somehow expands. They get their guy. Let's go Dodgers, I guess. But
Yeah,
good for
yeah.
them.
Yeah, I mean, Cardinal fans, we have a very unique relationship with Clayton Kershaw, and outside of that, like I'm a big Kershaw fan.
Oh
I think
yeah, talk about a
he's
Hall of Famer.
yeah, yeah, like inner circle Hall of Famer, right? So, um, I like, and you like a team keeping their guy around. It's not like
Oh
that.
yeah,
It,
absolutely.
it's pretty obvious too, because when he's healthy, he's still good.
I
But
was curious just because they have so many arms now. But you can't expect an entire season from Gonsolin. Can't expect an entire season from May. Roki Sasaki might be pitching every sixth day or be missing starts. I mean,
mhm.
so they'll find a place for another Hall of Famer.
Yeah, or hell, like he might come out in the bullpen, like they'll find a spot for him. I assume he'll start,
Yeah.
but maybe I don't know, maybe he comes in and closes. I know they just got a whole bunch of excellent bullpen guys, but they'll find a place for him.
Yeah.
Stupid
Um,
Dodgers.
yeah. The Padres signed Jason Hayward to a 1-year deal worth $1 million.
You can get a Hayward for 1 million or a Nick Anderson for 1.1. It's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, I don't know what to say about this one. I mean, Hayward keeps getting jobs. He can do like a couple things kind of well. Great clubhouse guy, apparently. He's gonna give that speech. You gotta have a guy who can give a good speech. So
Yeah, I
good
think
for the
he's
Padres, I
mostly a
guess.
vibes player at this point in
Yeah.
his career, but that's okay. The Padres have had a really weird offseason. Um, they're kind of pushing and pulling at the same time, but I just hope they keep Cease and King. There's been chatter about them
Yeah.
moving on from one of those two, and I hope that is not the case. Um, so yeah. Anyways, the
Yeah.
Dodgers do something.
Yep.
Or sorry, the Padres do something. Going back to the Dodgers, because that's the only team that's doing anything this offseason.
Uh-huh.
Farhan Zaidi was let go from the Giants organization when Buster Posey fired him, which is a crazy thing to say out loud.
Yep.
And he has returned to the Dodgers as a special advisor. That's where he had been working before getting the Giants job. He worked with Andrew Friedman at the Rays way back in the day. So the
Mhm.
Dodgers get a little smarter and get another X-ray front office guy to help their team.
X-ray.
X-ray. Um, yeah. Anything else
Yep.
there? Yeah.
Nope, that's it.
And maybe the most interesting thing that happened in baseball this week, because not much really did happen, is that Ippei Mizuhara, the interpreter and BFF of Shohei Ohtani, has been sentenced to 57 months in prison and has been ordered to pay back all of the money that he took. As this was going through, it was reported that Ippei wrote a letter to kind of explain his point of view of the situation to the judge, which came off very poorly. And essentially, as was reported, I've not read the letter, but as was reported, the letter kind of put blame on Shohei for driving too hard, for driving, like working too much and not paying Ipe enough. And it was stated that not only did Shohei Ohtani give him like Porsches and nice luxury gifts, but was paying him 6 figures a year. I think his final salary before he got fired was 500 grand a year.
Not
So,
bad to
anyways,
basically be a paid friend and
the
interpreter.
the judge did not like his letter, and they essentially threw the book
What?
at him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was kind of surprised that throwing the book at him is, 57 months. I do think like we over sentence and whatnot. So I'm not
yeah,
saying that this guy should get longer. But for stealing millions of dollars from like the most famous person on earth, I was not to bring up that conversation again. But you know, I was surprised he only got under 5 years for stealing
yeah.
millions.
Yeah, I also like. So it was also reported that it seems likely that he will be deported after his prison sentence, back to Japan, and having to pay back the money. I don't think he's going to be able to do that, and I'm not a
Yeah.
legal expert. I don't know exactly how that works.
Well, we also know
Um,
he certainly doesn't have the money anymore. It sounds like he was a pretty shit sports bettor as well. So
right,
I think what
right,
happens is you end up going bankrupt, and
yeah,
then and Otani's just like, yeah, okay, whatever. I make as much as you lost throwing a single pitch, so he'll be
yeah,
fine.
yeah. So yeah, that is the door is closed on the Ipe thing. I know that there will always be a group of people that believes he took the rap for Shohei Otani. But I'll tell you this: I don't think your interpreter is going to go to prison for you for 4.5 years or whatever that totals out to. Um, so
Yeah,
yeah, Ipe
I
did
don't.
it.
Yeah,
It is what it is.
yeah, I've never believed any of that. So
No, no, it's
um,
insane.
all right. So let's wrap up this episode. Hambone, we're going back to a classic here. We played it just a few weeks ago, but I think it's a fun one. We're going to challenge you again with this one, Hambone. We're playing Who is this guy?
All right.
All right. So if you have not heard this game,
I lit you up last time, right? I got it first try.
no, I think you got
Second
it on
guess.
the
Second
second
guess.
one. On the
Okay.
second
Yeah.
one. Yeah. It's usually how it goes. You usually either get it in like the first or second or like at the very end.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see how this one goes. So, if you are not familiar with how this game works, I have a set of 5 clues about a person who has played at least one game at the major league level for the St. Louis Cardinals. The uh, the facts start incredibly vague and get more and more specific as we go along. Ben has to make a guess after every fact. Um, Here we go.
All right.
Uh, Ben, this player was born on May 21st, 1985 in Gainesville, Florida.
Okay. First, 1985. So he might still be active, but he probably is not. Gainesville. Gainesville, Florida. Gainesville, Florida. Who is from Florida? Miles Michaelis is from Florida. Or wait, from Texas. Maybe he lives in Florida. John Jay is from Florida, I think. And he would be about that age. Let's go with John Jay.
It is not John Jay. I think we
Damn it.
did. I think we did Jay
Did we?
recently. I have it all here on. We did. And he was born in Florida, so
Okay.
you are at least correct on that. Actually, let's see. How close are they in age?
He's got to be like about that age too, right?
Yeah. This John Jay was also born in 1985 in Florida, so
Well,
so
this
pretty
is
good.
bullshit. I'm calling bullshit right
pretty,
now.
pretty good, pretty good. That is not
Okay.
who it is, but I'll
All
give you
right.
that. I'll give you that. You got very close. All right. This player was drafted in the third round of the 2003 MLB draft, but did not sign, bet on himself, and then was drafted in the first round, 6th overall in the 2006 MLB draft by the Detroit Tigers.
Okay. 2006 was drafted first overall by the Detroit Tigers. Oh, I don't know if the timing adds up. I didn't know this guy was from Florida. But when I think first overall, so if I remember, here's
Not
my
first
thought
overall,
process.
sixth overall in the first round.
Oh, 6 overall. My thought is that I think, was Andrew Miller a Tiger that was then traded to the Marlins for Miggy Cabrera? That's where my line of thought is. I just have absolutely no idea if he is from Florida or not. But that's the only player that I can think of. So I'm going to say Andrew Miller.
You're too fucking good at this game, man.
Yes, let's
That is who
go.
it is, Andrew Miller.
Yes.
I really didn't think you'd get it off of when he was drafted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right.
Nice. Yeah. So Andrew Miller. All right. So I'll give you the rest of the stats. You might have gotten it on this one. These are the list. This player has played for these teams: Detroit, Marlins, Boston, Baltimore, Yankees, Guardians, and St. Louis.
Yeah.
If you didn't get it after that, I'm going to get you a lot closer with this one. He was an AL All-Star in 2016 and 2017, the 2015 AL Rivera Reliever of the Year, and the 2016 ALCS MVP. Probably.
Man, he was so awesome for him for a bit there.
Yeah. And so my final one was many people point to the Guardians' usage of this player as a turning point in bullpen usage, though he was never able to repeat that success immediately upon joining the Cardinals, because he went directly from the Guardians and being the guy. I mean, he was the story of that offseason, or sorry, that postseason, and then went to the Cardinals, and he was fine. He just wasn't healthy, and he was never really able to repeat that level of dominance.
No, we paid him though.
We did pay him, and I think part of the Cardinals have they done another big reliever contract?
No, I mean, that was kind of when the rap on Mozeliak was he keeps paying these relievers and they keep flaming out. Brett Cecil was another example of it.
Sure.
But I feel like he had this run of spending money and totally failing, totally swing and a miss on all these relievers, and which is, I think, why you and I are so ready to be on board with this method that we have now.
Yeah. So there you go. Andrew Miller, interesting part of Cardinal history. And nice job getting it so quickly. And so that's going to do it for this episode.
I think the Cardinals had 2 players from Florida born at the same time. Were they on the same team together? I don't know. They didn't cross over though, did they? No, they didn't. I don't think so.
I mean, they might have. Miller played with the Cardinals in, he was 17, 18, and 19.
Jay wasn't on the team in 19, was he?
It was. No. Sorry, it was 19 and 20. Yeah. So
that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that'll do it for this episode of Talking About Birds. Thank you, everybody. We might have some news from spring training next week.
Oh, please, dear God.
Yeah. So again, tell your friends. Now's a great time to hop on the show. And thank you, everybody. And until next week, go Cardinals. Let's go.
Talking about